Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
With practice and qualifying in the books from COTA, we will get you set for the what's this race called? Auto Trader
EchoPark Automotive Grand Prix.
Prix, Circa of Americas, majillion words.
Yeah.
Brian Twining, how the hell are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, my friend. And, you know, as the community stan of Tyler Reddick, I am doing even better as our early week play on him at plus 850 looks absolutely brilliant. Although I will say I am a bit skeptical for what Sunday brings based on practice. And I think that's a discussion we're going to have today is what are we weighing more in practice or qualifying?
Well, the nice thing is we have that locked in, and now we can work to maybe find a way to kind of get on the other side of it to get ourselves some value. But as a car who was that fast and put it on the pole, I know his practice wasn't ideal, but the fact that he's, well, you know, we'll obviously talk his odds now, but plus 350. I mean, that seems like good value. I'll throw it in the pocket and see what happens. Like I'll take my chance.
Yeah, we got $5 of value on that.
Yeah, exactly. So, but let's start with DraftKings. We'll obviously run through the pricing. We'll give you some thoughts on the guys we like, the guys we're fading. We can mix in Brian's notebook from practice. He's got a literal notebook, if you're wondering. But we will definitely mix that in, and we'll obviously revisit the betting card. Where are we at? Where are we looking to move off of positions, gain more positions, and what's sitting in market, all that good stuff. So with that being said, Brian Twining, let me present my screen here, and we can look at the DK pricing and figure out where we would like to go. As always, we're powered by Win the Race. Make sure you check out wintherace.com. I know Ryan and crew over at The Draft, his show on YouTube, which is really cool. It's Tino Panatino and Full Tank with Phil, and they do a draft and each pick from different teams and stuff. It's really interesting to watch. But I know he's been doing some cool giveaways and stuff. Just gave away a free month of Win the Race, so make sure you're checking that out too. It's always good to get some extra NASCAR content, but Win the Race is awesome. The Discord is popping already with people throwing bets out post practice, post qualifying. They obviously have their DFS sims, all that good stuff. And Brian, we got to put together a grid rival pick for the people. We'll tweet it out. We will, or if you're watching this, it's already been tweeted out. It's in the newsletter, podcast.substack.com, our completely free newsletter. We'll have a grid rival pick or two in there. We did some before practice, but we'll get in the lab. We'll get some stuff cooked up for you guys if you want to jump in on grid rival. At AOP 25 gets you 100% match deposit bonus on up to $100. So I believe that's just for first time depositors. So if you've already deposited over there, cool. It won't work most likely, but give it a go. And join our free listener league. It's completely free. You still have time. You also get points from both Atlanta and Daytona. Whatever the lowest score is, jump in. There's still a long season to go. And if you win, we're going to give out some cool NASCAR stuff. So make sure you jump in there. But Brian, with all that spiel being said, Byron 10K, the only 10K driver, Tyler Reddick, Shane Van Gisbergen, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott round out the 9K and above. All the who's who of guys we expect to contend and win this race. So we got some, both Bell and Byron starting kind of mid-pack. Everyone else is inside the top 10 and really inside the top 7. Who's jumping out? Where's the value? What do you like?
Well, I can't help but go back to 2023 and reference the fact that when the last time Tyler Reddick sat on pole here, he led over 40 laps and won the race. Obviously, that was a shorter race because it was on the longer track of COTA, but it's been said ad nauseum. I tweeted it out earlier this week, like starting up front here has been the cure-all for anything, and
Yeah.
it has been a good indication as to where guys were going to finish. And so the first guy is clearly Tyler Reddick, because if he's able to run away from the field early, and we do see maybe a little bit of evening out between what we saw in qualifying versus what we saw in practice, he could very well wind up being the best car. That's still to be determined, because if you go by practice results, not so much. But they found something in qualifying, and he dusted everybody. So,
Yeah, and I just him and COTA, like they get along. His eye naturally gravitates to there, and the fact that
yeah.
2311 was not only able to put one car but two cars on the front row.
And it should have been. It was about to be 3
Yeah.
if Riley Herbst didn't cut the track limits, and I think Herbst was actually going to be in line for the pole.
So I think that says a lot about where 2311 is, and I think the fact that they have that third car, they're able to kind of do what we've talked about with JGR and with Hendrick and with other
Yeah.
cars, where they
Good
can
point.
set it up for qualifying, set it up for practice, set it up for race day, and kind of figure some stuff out while they're trying different things in 3 cars. And now they have legit options. It's and the fact that Bubba, not a road course ringer, is starting on the front row is, I think, says a lot about where they are. And honestly, I'm talking myself into being more excited about Tyler Reddick, even, beyond just obviously having that ticket's nice, and we both would love to cash that. Obviously, Tyler, this is a Tyler Reddick podcast, but there's some interesting names in here. SVG obviously could dog walk the field. Kyle Larson, you were talking about him before we started recording. It's like, obviously grid at road courses. Obviously, when Hendrick nails the setup and he has the rocket, he's incredibly difficult to beat. Chase Elliott, we've seen him win here. We've seen him be really good. There's a lot of kind of dominators, and then both Bell and Byron, we expect to be performing strong here. Byron's been a contender, was second in the Xfinity race, could easily move forward, lead laps, even if he doesn't win, is a top 2, 3, 4 car, and is a part of potential optimal lineup. So I think the decision process and kind of figuring out how you want to get going from here, because we're not at even super speedway adjacent courses anymore, where we're just stacking the back and not worrying about front row. We have to get those dominators right. We have to figure out, do we want to spend up or do we want to go down? And if we're spending with dominators at the beginning, then we're going to have to find movers in the middle, and then we're going to have some real tough decisions. So I think this week's going to be a tough week to build, but I think is going to have some good opportunities. You're going to have to nail the Dominator 1 and 2 to really contend in tournaments and give yourself a legit shot this week.
Yeah, and I think to that point, it's extremely risky playing somebody like Tyler Reddick, because we saw him do this last year where he looked like the best car in practice, and then I believe he started second or something, and then he wound up being around a 4th or 5th place car during the race.
Yeah.
So I mean, you didn't get those laps led, you didn't get obviously you weren't going to get any placement points with him starting up front there, and he really didn't have the speed to throw down very many fastest laps either. So with Reddick, you have to be sure that you are going to have the fastest car on track for the majority of the day and have him leading a ton of these laps, which is kind of why it was referenced in the Win the Race Discord. Like, this might be a super speedway style road course to attack, because you have guys starting further back in the field who realistically we had the full expectation that they were going to be starting up near the front. I mean, guys like Tyler Gibbs, Alex Bowman, those are just a couple coming off the top of my head. And then like Christopher Bell, I know a lot of teams were surprised by the slickness of the track, and I don't think that they're going to necessarily perform exactly like we saw in practice. And these are elite drivers, very skilled at road courses, and I think you can expect them to move through the field a little bit. And so I don't hate building from the middle back and then maybe grabbing somebody from the front if the salary allows it. But
yeah,
this is going to be a really interesting weekend for DFS.
Yeah, I think for me, like if I'm doing tournaments, maybe like a 3 max, like we usually build for, I like the idea of kind of building my lineup and then having a spot for either Reddick, SVG, or Larson. Those are the three that I'm kind of leaning on right now. And then kind of maybe building a similar lineup and I kind of pencil each one in along the way. All right, well, let's move into the next range because I think that's where some real discussions start, and I think it's going to help shape what we do in the rest of the lineup. So, inside 9K, Allmendinger starting 12, Connor Zilic 8,700. Dude was amazing in Xfinity. Put it on the pole. Obviously, the best car. Got shuffled to the back at one point. Cut through the field. I thought I had Byron and Chastain. I was feeling real good about it, and then I did not so much. So Connor Zilla starting 14th. We'll talk about him when we switch over to betting too, because his numbers have floated and they're starting to recorrect a little bit. Chastain, Ty Gibbs, as Brian mentioned, Alex Bowman, as Brian mentioned, Christopher Buescher, who we both were very excited about and kind of expected to land in this range in terms of where he qualified. And then obviously have the ability to race forward, and then Austin Cindric. So Cindric, Buescher, Bowman, all incredibly compelling, starting near the back. If you wanted to click, and build your lineup off of that, I wouldn't hate it. As Brian mentioned, both Gibbs and Chastain are kind of, top 10, borderline top 10 guys. And 8,600, 8,400 could easily be the guys that win this race. So grabbing them, we'll see what Connor Zilic does in the Cup car. And then Dinger the Ringer obviously didn't have the most amazing practice, but was able to qualify okay. And obviously we know his prowess on speedways. So Brian, where's your head at with this range, and who's jumping out as your favorite values?
I go directly down to Alex Bowman and Christopher Buescher. I mean, Buescher coming into this weekend, we said it. I'm pretty sure every other NASCAR podcast in the world probably mentioned this, but Buescher is always a wait and see guy, especially at road courses where he never qualifies well. I mean, this is kind of his average starting position here at most road courses, but you can expect him to be battling for a top 10 by the end of the race. And as we saw at Watkins Glen, when strategy falls his way, maybe he's up front and he's battling for a win. So I think Buescher is an automatic click, with the caveat that everybody else is probably thinking the same thing. And so you have to try to deviate a little bit. And that brings me to Alex Bowman, who is also going to be rostered a shit ton this weekend. Yeah. So, I mean, if you want to be different, I don't know if you can play both of these guys and be able to differentiate yourself to win the Millie Maker or whatever contest that you're in.
Yeah, I think you can play both of them. I think you got to find ways to be different elsewhere. I think getting cute on both.
I think in cash, yes.
Yeah, I think in tournaments too. I think they're both such. I mean, if you want to play both, if you don't want to play both of them, you just want to pick one, that's fine. But I think I'm grabbing both of those guys and then figuring out my uniqueness pieces elsewhere, like a Tyler Reddick, or maybe I don't know. Maybe leaving a little extra salary on the table. Like there's ways to get there. We'll build some lineups and see what we can find. I think Austin Cindric's fine. Like obviously, given what we saw in practice, like he didn't look very good, but starting
he looked okay in practice.
Yeah, like he was starting 36th for a guy that we think can be good here. He's probably like you said, he's probably going to probably be popular too. But
okay, so when you weigh the popularity and the fact that he's starting with the Squirrels, for me, that's like an absolute no-go. I do not trust Austin Cindric to be able to drive past people and avoid confrontation, especially at this course where the track limits are very tight. If guys go too wide, we saw it in Xfinity when people were driving to end of the stage or they were battling for a position. A lot of guys were getting jacked up. Starting in the very rear, we said this last year. Like, how can you trust somebody like him to be able to maneuver his way through there safely when we haven't seen it done? And then you go back at his past history here at COTA, he's traditionally started inside like the top 12 or inside the top 10. And he doesn't have the greatest finishes based off of those starting positions. And now we're going to play him thinking he's going to get to those finishing results.
Yeah, I mean, we got to figure out, like, we trust some people to grab track position and maintain it. Do we trust Austin Cindric to find a way to grab track position and not do something stupid?
I don't. That's the thing. Yeah.
And so
As
maybe
gross.
he's, we want to talk about being different. Maybe he's the guy we don't click, and then we're kind of pivoting off of all that potential ownership, and going from there.
Yeah, and just like as we dive into the next range here into the 7K range, I think his teammate, who's priced just below him, starting 11 spots ahead of him, he at least presents more of a safeness, I guess you could say. I don't know. I don't think either of them are very good plays, are very good at road courses comparatively to the rest of the top echelon guys. But I trust Ryan Blaney to keep the wheels on it much more than I do Austin Cindric when he's starting back behind the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
To begin this race.
Now, it's a little scary that we both kind of had the same thought once we saw his name there, but I mean, I was talking about him before practice and qualifying as a guy who I liked as the top Ford market. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to be a little unique, you give up those 11 points, you spend $200 less, and you give up a whole hell lot of projected ownership. So I like that call. I'm fine going to Blaney. Kyle Busch, Daniel Suarez, McDriver, Chase Briscoe, Joey Logano, Dennis Hamlin, Carson Hocevar, who did he make it 4 laps in the Xfinity race before slamming into the wall?
I think he made it 3, and on lap 4, he's slammed into the wall. And sometimes less is more, Carson. He went on this rant trying to explain himself as to why he didn't try to continue. And it sounded an awful lot like he just gave up and decided this Xfinity car sucks and I want to go play iRacing and prepare for Cup tomorrow. That's what I got out of this. Like, I was a host of our apologist earlier this week and post Atlanta, and I still think he's going to be an incredible racer here in the Cup Series, but that was a pretty damning interview that he gave right there.
Yeah. I did think I think it was Phil mentioned it on the draft about the kind of the corollaries between Joey Logano coming up, where Carson Hocevar is right now, and like the way they rub people the wrong way, and like the veterans who've been around and the kind of dumb things and the abrasiveness. Thought that was kind of a good comp. Obviously, we'll see if he becomes the driver anywhere near what Joey Logano has been, but it was kind of interesting. Okay, so obviously we're no Hocevar, Hamlin, Logano, Briscoe, McDowell. You like any of those guys in kind of that mid-pack range?
McDriver. This is Michael McDowell's best starting position here at COTA. Every other time he started outside the top 20, and he has an average finish, I believe it's like right around 13 or so. And we know how good McDriver is at road courses when his equipment holds up. You know, gosh forbid he has another damn mechanical issue or his power steering gives out on him like he did last year. But
yeah,
I was high on McDowell coming into the week. I mean, when we look at the betting card, you'll see I kind of have a dead matchup there, but I still think he's a guy who is a legit threat to finish inside the top 10, and depending on him stealing track position, which we've seen him do at road courses, a top 5 as the day goes on. So I like McDowell here, only 7,500. Outside of maybe Logano, I think he's probably my favorite guy just based on starting position.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good call. I think he's an interesting spot, and you mentioned him another guy a little while ago before we started, and that was Chase Briscoe. You don't have to twist my arm to get to Chase Briscoe, starting 18th. Definitely won't be very popular.
Yeah.
And showed the long run speed that makes him as somebody who's kind of interesting. Maybe, not necessarily like a guy who can contend and win, but could he get 7th? Could he get 5th? Maybe that's a bridge too far, but I don't think it's that far.
Yeah, I definitely think Briscoe is kind of in the same mold of McDowell and their potential on Sunday. It's just historically we haven't seen it, but that was also when he was in definitely lesser equipment. And
Yeah.
so it's hard to weigh his past results versus the equipment that he's in now. And to Kyle's point, we talked before jumping on here, and I take notes during practice. Like I sit here and I actually jot down notes in a notebook. And one of the things I said about Chase Briscoe at the end of Group A's second session, Briscoe is sporty. He was throwing down decent laps later in that run. And, if tire fall off does come into play, I think the guys who are really skilled at, say, short tracks and like braking zones and stuff like that may be able to overcome any sort of road course deficiencies we may have seen in the past when tire wear didn't come into play.
Yeah.
And I think Briscoe falls into that category perfectly.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout. Really curious too, just to see, like, I think the next couple weeks in the JGR ride will be very informative of where he is and what we should be expecting. Obviously, Daytona pole, and then kind of not a lot of stuff in between. But I want to see him this week. I obviously want to see him at Phoenix. I want to see him in Vegas. Because if he starts performing like top 10, top 10, top 5, like I'll be much more optimistic in kind of his long-term run. But if he starts just kind of, Chase Briscoeing his way where he'll have a top 5 and then he'll be like 3 30th place finishes and then poor qualifying, and it's just like, okay, well, you're just the same guy in a better equipment. So really, really curious. What about Kyle Busch or Daniel Suarez? Any interest there?
Look, I think we could both say we like Mi Amigo, but this is the same story with him. He's qualified pretty damn well here in the past, and the finishing results just aren't there. And at some point, you have to come to the realization that there is just something that happens during the race. And he was one of the guys who got caught and got penalized during practice or like during those early runs for cutting track limits. And he said prior to it, Eric Estep, during pre-practice like interviews with drivers, Suarez was one of the drivers who came out and said that he preferred that they had left the big 400-pound sandbags out there to let drivers know where the track limits were. And maybe that's why. So if you're looking at that and Suarez has difficulties keeping it inside the track limits, that's going to come into play on Sunday when you're around other cars and you're pushing too hard. And so I do not trust Suarez to keep it up front there at all.
Yeah, I think that's a phenomenal point. It is a little weird that they just like, good luck. Guess what? Where the track limits are.
Yeah, exactly.
Are we going to penalize you? Are we not? Nobody knows. Yeah, God forbid.
Honestly, it's kind of bullshit. Like, how much time are they actually cutting by cutting the track limits by a foot? I mean, come on.
I don't know.
It's not like guys are driving through the dirt. I think that would be a penalty that would be worth giving them if somebody was egregiously cutting the track.
Yeah, no, I think that is a great point. All right, let's move into the mid-range, talk some of these 6K guys. We have Brad K starting 26th, Bubba Wallace, Todd Gilliland, Cole Custer, Zane Smith, Justin Haley, Josh Berry, and John Hunter Nemechek. If we want to spend up, we're going to have to find a way to save salary somewhere. Is it this range, or should we keep scrolling to find values in kind of that 5K range?
I don't trust any of these guys to do enough to warrant playing them. I mean, I think Barry had a decent showing in the first practice session, but I mean, he's never really done well in Cup Series and road courses. And again, he's starting with the Squirrels. And then Custer, like, what do we expect out of Cole Custer after last week? If he was making idiotic moves way ahead of time on the last lap, what's going to happen when we're on lap 10 of the race here and he's fighting for 28th place and winds up spinning out because of it? So I don't really trust him either.
Yeah. No, it's kind of a gross range, but we're gonna have to make some decisions down here because we want to get all the fun guys in at the top. So if not the 6Ks, what about Dylan, Gregson, Priest, Stenhouse, Herbst, Eric Jones, Ty Dillon, Cody Ware? Anything?
I
Okay,
think I think Riley Herbst is interesting after he got
yeah.
track experience in Xfinity, and he did all right, and just the overall speed that we saw out of 2311. That if he can make passes early based off that single lap speed and escape harm's way of starting back with the squirrels and maybe like start running in the 20s in the early on in stage 1, we might come away with a top 20 finish there. And at $5,400, I think that's a decent.
Yeah, I think Herbst
Use.
makes sense. I think especially if you're a Tyler Reddick believer, what kind of 2311's doing. I think Ty Dillon's sneaky fine, 34th, 5100. I could get behind. Yeah, I don't know. It's not as fun to kind of mess with these guys in the back when we're not doing speedway racing. Like it's really, really gross. It feels like it's going to be the comfiest build is just going to be kind of pounding that middle range.
Yeah.
And that means you're not getting to the elite guys and you're not getting to the cheap guys. So if you're building tournament lineups and there's names down here you want to jump in on, if you want to hit a couple studs from the top, come down and grab your jabronis and then kind of mix it in. That might be the way to get different this week because it sure doesn't feel good getting down here.
Yeah, no, this is definitely road courses. I think in general are more track types where the best perform as expected, and as you call them, the jabronis, they suck. I mean, there's no mincing words here, but they perform as expected, and it takes just the most randomized caution for them to do well. Kind of like what we saw at Watkins Glen to end last year, when like all of a sudden Carson Hocevar was running up front for the lead, just because we got these I think it was like 3 consecutive cautions that just allowed people to make up track position like that. So I don't put too much into that. So
okay, well, let's build 3 lineups because I want to see what uncomfortable pockets we're put into and how we get our way out of it. So we are going to start with a clean slate and we can go literally anywhere. So who is the name you want to make sure gets in lineup number 1?
all right, let's do the most unoriginal thing. Let's start with SVG.
That's not where I thought you were going. Okay. Put Alex Bowman in starting 21st, 8,300. We talked about how safe and comfortable he is. So he's my first click.
All right. Yeah, I like that. Oh, man. Now we're getting...
I mean, do you want to start with the Riley Herbst call? Because I do think that's a really good one.
Yeah, I think that's good because it saves us a ton of money, and then we can build around what we have left.
Yeah. And just getting to like one of those guys in the 5K range really opens things up. Do we want more like, we could do Ross? We could do Busher's there, Blaney's there, McDriver.
Well, okay. I think here is a decent opportunity to get somebody that not many people are going to be on, and so I feel like this would be a good spot for Briscoe.
Okay.
Because if he's going to ceiling it and say he's 8th through 5th, he's not going to be rostered very. I mean, I'm probably like 10%.
Yeah. Well, so between Herbst and Briscoe, we've made ourselves unique. So I'm gonna go with Chris Busher.
Yeah. See, I like that. And then we could put in anybody.
Literally anybody. We could put in William Byron. We can put in whoever, and then we could always
go out
and go up to somebody who's a little more comfortable too.
We need to have a quick discussion on this.
Okay.
Connor Zilic. Are people going to be scared off based on his qualifying in Cup, or are more people going to be inclined to play him in Cup based on what we saw in Xfinity?
I think because he's the golden boy in the narrative, and the fact that he basically was amazing in Xfinity, even though it's a little bit different. I think people will be excited to play him.
Okay, so then he's
Especially if he was starting like 4th instead of 14th. I think there might be a lot more trepidation, but I think given where he's starting, given his potential upside, I think people will be excited to line up and play us. Let us know down in the comments.
Yes.
Are you playing Connor
Give
this
us
week?
your take on CZ.
Do you think he's someone that everybody's going to be jumping on, or do you think he's going to be someone that people are going to avoid? All right. Well, so we have this set up. I mean, we could even we could if I back Herb's out, that gives us 8,200 per driver left.
So I don't mind putting Chastain in this lineup.
Yeah, I mean, we could do Chastain and McDowell and feel amazing.
Yeah, but then I think we're kind of pigeonholing. We need both McDowell and Briscoe to basically top 10 it.
Yeah. Ryan Blaney, that gets us a little bit of uniqueness. I don't want to go to Keselowski.
No, he sucks. Sorry.
I don't want to go to Hocevar.
Sorry, Brad,
I don't want to go to Hamlin. I mean, I guess I could do Logano as kind of basically what I expect from Blaney.
I mean, as of now, we have I'd say we have 4 race winning potential cars. Obviously practice may not say that, but I think if Buescher can get track position, he's going to compete with anybody.
Yeah, I think Buescher, Chastain, Bowman, and SVG can all win this race. I don't think that's crazy at all.
Yeah, 100%.
I think we put Ryan Blaney in.
All right. Yeah, I
feel good about what his maybe he doesn't win the race, but I feel like he's a top 10. Like kind of, I think he has anywhere between like probably 6th and 15th. I think he's kind of in that range. So you're already, even if he gets 15th, you're getting 10 spots, plus maybe he gets a few fast laps. Maybe he's somebody that stays out when people are pitting before stage 2 and trying to get their car prepped for the final run. Maybe he stays out, if there's a pit at the end where he tries to grab track position, ends up kind of doing what Chase did at Sonoma, and just gets a top 5. And maybe he wasn't that all day, but because he stayed out and risked it, he ends up having a fine finish. All right, that's lineup number 1. We will build lineup number 2 with Mr. Come on, there we go. I'm going to make 2 clicks, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so this is our starting point. I want to make sure we build one of these. We have tons of flexibility. We can go up, we can go down, we can put in whoever. Who do you want to be the next click?
Let's put Kyle Larson in here.
Oh, I did not see that coming.
Full disclosure, I think Kyle Larson is comparable to both SVG and Tyler Reddick tomorrow. Maybe better.
Okay. Sounds like we'll be adding 7-1 to the betting card. Okay, well, I think if we're going to put Kyle Larson, I think we have to put Alex Bowman in and get a little Hendrick.
Oh, great.
Duel.
You can say goodbye to any Bowman bets. All right. So, I mean, we still have decent amount of salary here to build. We don't have to go down to the jabronis.
No, this has been, I mean, obviously we're putting a lot into Riley Herb's shoes, but it shows you that if there's somebody down here in that kind of.
Yeah, I think this is a good place to use Austin Cindric.
Okay. I like that.
Because I think we're different enough by having both Reddick and Larson.
Yeah.
That we can kind of get a little chalky with Cindric.
And then, I mean, do we want to leave some salary on the table, hit a busher? Do we want to Dinger, Zilich, Chastain, like Tyrone Gibbs starting 13th? Like, do you trust him to be a top handful of spots car? Let's do the game again.
Okay.
Reddick can win.
Uh-huh.
Herbst probably can't win. Larson can win.
Yes.
Bowman can win.
Yeah.
Can Cindric win?
No.
Okay. So
so we need somebody else that can win.
Right. So I think the names, if we're doing that, are Dinger, Chastain, or Gibbs. I mean, I guess
Gibbs
Busher
has never
could win
won,
too.
so.
Huh?
Gibbs has never won.
Fair. That's 100% fair. But do you trust Gibbs to win more than you trust Allmendinger to win, given the equipment they're in this year and what we saw from them today?
Man, this is such a hard debate for me because I think a lot goes into Dinger's history in the sport, but something I mentioned earlier in the week, or maybe it was on Twitter, it might have been on our show earlier this week. Dinger hasn't won on a traditional road course in the Cup Series in forever. So, I mean, it's not like he's a guy who has been coming up here in the Cup Series when he wasn't running full time and just beating everybody.
Yeah.
You know, so it's difficult to say that he's a potential winner. And then you have Gibbs, for instance, who's never won.
So do we just not pick either of them and pick Ross and not overthink it?
Yeah, because I think Ross is probably the safest. But let me just tell you, part of my notes, I could be completely wrong on this. I mean, everybody takes notes differently, and everybody's subjective when they do this.
I don't think anyone takes notes quite like you do.
Gibbs, least amount of fall off of just 0.4 during the second practice session of Group A. So he wasn't fast, but he went out there and clearly ran a simulated like 10-lap run, and he managed his tires pretty damn well from what I saw. Not something that I would have expected out of him.
So I'm going to give you the final spot since I started it out. Do you want Ross Chastain or do you want Ty Gibbs?
Let's do Chastain here because we got way different with Cindric, Herbst, and then the Reddick Larson combo.
Okay. And then with that being said, we're going to start this lineup with Tyrone. Where would you like to go? You can go anywhere.
Man, this week is very hard.
Byron and Bell?
I think Elliott could be really strong. But man, we're such an anti-Elliott pod though. Like,
hey, we'll back anyone as long as they're winning us money pod. That's what we are. Question is, you like Larson a lot. Yes. You clearly think he can win the race. He's going to be one of the best cars. From a DraftKings perspective, if obviously we penciled in Elliott, what's your feeling if we go Elliott and Byron and don't use Larson? Obviously, DraftKings is a little bit different. You're building with some other scoring in mind and whatnot, but like you're basically picking Elliott over Larson in that scenario. Obviously, we know you think if you think he has a chance to win, if you think the potential, ownership leverage we're getting off of by going to Elliott instead of Larson, giving up those 4 spots, like, do you want to go Byron here, or do we not need to worry about doing the Team Hendrick thing and go somewhere else?
So my only worry with William Byron is the fact that the last 2 years he started the race on the pole, which with that built-in track position, you don't have to deal with driving through traffic outside of when you're on a different tire strategy than everybody else. So your equipment is clearly better. So making passes is much easier.
Yeah.
Something we haven't seen him do the last 2 years is make passes on people on similar equipment. So I I'm a little worried that with him starting in the middle of the field here, essentially, he's just going to be that type of car, very similar to what we saw last year with SVG when he qualified. I think it was 12th. And that's kind of where he ran for the majority of the day. I mean, he just got mired in the pack there, and then he had the whole issue where I believe he got penalized or he lost first gear. So, like, I don't know that I trust William Byron to drive it to the front. Whereas, like Kyle Larson last year early in the race, he was passing guys on the same equipment. Alex Bowman, he's done this numerous times where he's started further back and gotten to the front. So I would much rather play a Larson who has the built-in 8 spots to the lead already, and a guy that I trust to get it there and then run away if he does, because we saw that at Sonoma. And also Alex Bowman, who he's proven the ability to do that at this specific track.
Debo just got traded to the Commanders. That's pretty wild.
Oh, holy moly.
NFL is trying to steal our sunshine here.
You know what I can say to that? F you, NFL. I'm so happy that season is over.
Yeah, you don't have to go send out a tweet.
Oh gosh, yeah.
All right, so
I mean, I could be on an island with that thought process, but
no, and I think that's a very logical one, and I think honestly, people, I don't like Byron's interesting because obviously he's got good history here. He's starting in the middle of the pack, so it's compelling to get him, but he's also expensive. And if there's other guys that are easier clicks, kind of, I mean, we could go down to Bell, we could go down to Busher and Cindric and Bowman and Blaney and like, there's options if you want to save salary. So let's not click him right now. We have Gibbs, we have Elliott. Where do we want to go next? I mean, do we want to do some Christopher Bell and add some Toyota exposure? And we could even add a little Briscoe. We could add a little Crisco and get this thing sliding down the track.
Well, we haven't played him yet, so I got to get some McDriver in here.
Okay, I like that. Let's do Bell and let's do McDowell.
Yeah, because I also think somebody like McDowell, he's like 7,600. Yeah, somebody like McDowell, he's known to be aggressive, going for victories, and I don't think that's going to be any different here. And so you're getting in that built-in, we're in it to win it, which I'm going to get shit on again. Everybody's trying to win the race, but that's not necessarily the case with other guys just knowing that they're not very good here. Like Denny Hamlin, he's under no impression that he's going to battle it out up front. So he's going to do everything in his power to get as many points as possible and get out of here clean.
Yeah.
And there's other guys that have a similar mentality at this track.
Same with Logano, same with Ryan Blaney,
exactly. Whereas Michael McDowell knows his best opportunities to win races are at super speedways and road courses.
Yeah, how pissed is Michael McDowell and AJ Allmendinger and all these guys with like SVG and Connor Zillage coming in and just like stealing their sunshine?
Oh,
they're like, this is my damn chance. I already have a couple guys to deal with. Now I have new road course ringers that are potentially even better than me. That's got to be frustrating.
Yeah, but I mean, they could still scrounge out good finishes. So
yeah. All right. So we have Elliott starting 3rd. We have Gibbs 13th. We have Bell 19th. And we have McDowell 16th. We have 2 spots left. Around 8K per driver. Puts us in an interesting spot. I don't think we can click Bubba, Hocevar, Suarez, Kyle Busch. I don't feel good about any of those guys. They're all starting close to the front, but it's not fun.
How quickly is Hocevar punted?
How close is he to Kyle Busch or somebody like that?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I guess my question to you is, do we want to get gross and go down? Obviously we should probably do someone that's not Riley Herbst.
Yeah.
But like we could do Kyle Larson up here and then go down and get like I don't know, one of these jabronis? Or do we want to sit kind of in the like high sevens, low eights?
Well, I
And
think you have to weigh ceiling on these things. For instance, if you put Kyle Larson in there, you're getting a guy who you're hoping he just gets placement points. Obviously, there's no hope that that person is winning the race. Whereas if we try to go here in the middle, if you get a guy like you can squeeze Busher or Bowman again, and clearly if they can find their way to the front, they can battle it out for a win. And it's not out of the realm of possibility that they're getting 20 plus placement points. And then you can also go down and maybe be different and play Suarez if the salary allows it, because nobody's going to be on Suarez starting fifth.
yeah, I mean, honestly, if you wanted to play Suarez, he would be an interesting second dominator. I don't know that I love him, but we've also seen him be really good, and maybe he figures it out. So if we
I
put
hope
in this,
not. You'll see on our betting card. Like I sure as
yeah,
hell hope not. But
because we could put Suarez and then do any of our favorite kind of this
yeah,
range, but
yeah, this is a difficult week because can we play SVG with this lineup?
I'm down to try. That puts us Josh Berry, John Hunter, Austin Dillon, Noah Gregson, Ryan Priest, Ricky Stenhouse.
Ugh. Yeah, that's rough having.
I mean, I don't mind putting Ty Dillon in. Riley Herbst is also fine if you feel much better
All
about
right,
him.
let's play Ty Dillon and just pray that he's not the first guy wrecked out.
And if we do that, we still have 1,000 left. So we can, I think we upgrade either Christopher Bell or Mick Driver, I guess would be the two.
Yeah, I mean you can go from McDriver to say Bowman.
Yeah. Like, do you feel much better about a Bowman or a Busher over McDriver? Or would you rather?
I like Busher better just because you're getting eight more spots.
Yeah,
And you
that
have
feels.
five drivers who, if they wind up winning the race, I don't think anybody is going to be sitting here
No.
saying, "Oh my god, I can't believe they won."
Yeah. No, I think that feels nice.
But obviously, we're going to need both Chase Elliott and SVG to throw down some fastest laps and lead about 20 or more each in order for it to be worth it.
Yeah, the other thing we can do is put McDowell in, and then we could do a Byron. Yeah, I guess Byron or Bell would be the options.
Yeah, see, I like Bell a little bit more because we know Bell can drive past people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the move. Unless you want to upgrade Ty Gibbs to. Unless you want to go up to like. What we could do is go up
Okay, let's
to.
get rid of Chase Elliott.
Oh, just punting on Chase Elliott. Okay.
Connor Zilic. We haven't played him yet.
Wow.
I think look, I have a longer outright I played prior to practice. It's a little
Okay,
bit
so do we just
worse.
put Kyle Larson in this and hope they're 1, 2, 3?
I mean,
And
I
we could
don't.
put Elliott in too, but
The only thing is, I would rather play Larson than Chase, just because you're getting those 4 spots, and I think Larson's going to be better.
okay. I like it.
This is gross.
I love it. I like putting us in uncomfortable spots. I think it makes it more fun.
Ugh.
Okay. There's our 3 lineups. I will be entering them into contests over on DraftKings.com. While I do that, let's recap the card. So we've got some bets. Brian, I'll run through mine, and then I'll have you run through yours and kind of update people on where you're at. I think you've added some since we've been talking. So I have Reddick to win 850, as does Brian, so we're feeling great about that. I have Ross over Byron at plus 130. I have Logano over Denny at plus 110. Took those both just because of the money, plus money. I also took Ross over SVG, which I don't love, but I do think Ross can win. I'm getting plus 135 to do it, and I think it's I think they should be closer than that number says, so that's why I took it. And then I took Bowman top 5 at plus 325, which when we get into the numbers seems to be floating around. So if you want to jump in and ride that wave, feel free. Brian, break down your betting card and let the people know where you're at.
Yeah. So as you see, I'm adding another one here. Michael McDowell top 10 at plus 240. Again, one of the sport's best road course racers, starting 16th, his best starting spot here at COTA. And then, yeah, I added the Alex Bowman top 10 over at Bet365. It's also at Caesars for a similar price, which these will probably be gone by the time you're watching this Sunday morning. But I like those. And then I added on to my McDowell over Suarez play, which is now plus 160 at Bet365 and plus 150 at our favorite offshore, simply based on past results and this story already having been written 4 times before at this track and pretty much throughout the Gen 7 era between these two, where Suarez starts better and yet still finishes behind and oftentimes well behind McDowell come Sunday. So
yeah,
those are my favorite plays. Obviously, the Cindric top Ford number, I added that before practice and qualifying. It's gotten shorter for some reason post practice and qualifying, which I don't quite get. I think it's just because the whole stable has kind of gotten shorter and closer together. But I would not play that now. And then again, the only outright so far, Reddick plus 850. I'm sitting pretty with that built-in equity there. So hopefully the 45 can bring it home.
Yeah. So Daniel Suarez is definitely winning this race with me and Brian fading him as hard as we are, but that's okay. Well, let's run through the current odds, see what other bets we want to add. As a reminder, aoppodcast.substack.com, aoppodcast.substack.com, our free newsletter shows up in your email every race day. If you're not a subscriber, you can actually go check it out today. If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, I'm trying to figure out why this is frozen. But yeah, so we'll have our full betting card on there. We'll have our favorite bets on there. We'll have some more DFS thoughts on there. So make sure you check that out. Completely free. Come hang out. We'll have our good rivals picks. We'll have all kinds of stuff in there. Let's look at odds. So as we mentioned, Tyler Reddick plus 360, Shane Van Gisbergen 4-1, Kyle Larson 7, Elliott 8, Ross 12, Bell 12, Zillage 14, Byron 16. That's kind of inside 20-1. Obviously, given what we could have had Reddick at if you don't currently have it, and given kind of Brian's trepidation, I assume there's no way in hell you're betting plus 360.
Yeah, hell no. I'm not, no chance, especially with who's up front with him. With Van Gisbergen in the field, who, I mean, he might have sandbagged practice and he was still like the fastest car. And then he said he didn't like his lap he ran, his faux qual lap, and then went out and was like 1,000 slower than Daniel Suarez after biffing a couple of turns. He's going to be extremely good tomorrow.
So let's talk about, because we kind of mentioned before, like we weren't sure how Trackhouse was going to approach practice and qualifying, who was going to get the best rides. Do you think Suarez got a good car? Do you think they just have a good setup across the board and he was able to take advantage of that? Or he's just, this is what he does. He qualifies well and then he sucks on race day.
Yeah, no, I just think Trackhouse as a whole, they have a good handle of this track, and they probably all came with similar setups. I probably made a little bit too much of him being the fourth wheel in that garage, but you know, this is not something that we haven't seen before. Like I've mentioned already numerous times when we were discussing DFS, like Suarez seems to qualify pretty well here. It was surprising that he was actually the fastest guy. in the qualifying session among the Trackhouse drivers, but I don't expect him to stay up there. That's the problem. Like when have we seen Daniel Suarez put together an entire race that isn't a super speedway style like in Atlanta?
Sonoma, like 3 years ago.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's been since the first year of the Gen 7 car when Trackhouse dominated road courses. And so I can't trust him to do that again, and which is why I'm still open to fading him against guys that I trust at this track type.
So if not Reddick, if not SVG, is the bet Kyle Larson at 7-1?
Look, 7 is so short. I'm trying to get this through my head that 7's actually a good number. And I think with Shane Van Gisbergen in there, it's hard to get down on Larson. Yeah. So I almost feel like it's a live bet situation. I would much rather see how they're running, see what the pitch strategy falls, and then say it's like mid or late stage 2 and Larson is still running up front and he's on the same strategy and he's still running similar lap times, whether he's 3-1 or not. I think that's then when you fire, because something that is also in the back of my mind here is with the track limits in those S's, guys like Tyler Reddick, Kyle Larson, Daniel Suarez, as I already mentioned, they tend to overdrive the car sometimes, and Larson is no stranger to committing a penalty or, spinning tires and getting loose because he's going too hard.
He could also be 5 seconds ahead of everybody and dominating station.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I will say our friends over at Win the Race have his fair market value inside 7-1, so they're saying 7-1 is fine. I wouldn't go much past that. I'm not betting 6 or 5 or anything happens between now and race day, but yeah, I don't like I think I saw what I needed to see from Reddick. Like Brian said, Larson looked incredible. SVG could easily dog walk the field. But I'm not betting 4-1. I think the real conversations, at least for me, I think Larson's in play. I think Elliott's in play, but if you're telling me pick Larson or Elliott at basically the same odds, I'm picking Larson every time. I think the next range is where we make a decision. Do we want Chastain at 12, Bell at 12, Connor at 14? I was thinking, he was listed at 8 where I was looking, tempted to hit that, waited. And then Byron, you mentioned kind of maybe some trepidation about what he may or may not have and starting with the squirrels. And does he get up to the front quickly and kind of just be the guy we expect to see? Or does he take a little time to get up there? Or does he have caution? So any interest in Chastain, Bell, Zilich, or Byron at their prices?
I think the Zilich number is kind of on point where he probably should have been across the board earlier in the week. And we kind of talked about that mid-teens, maybe around that 20 mark where Bowman was priced. And the fact that, quite honestly, even despite qualifying where he did, the fact that Bowman is still priced almost $10 longer than Connor Zilich is surprising after that practice that we saw. And then, guy like Christopher Bell, I think he's too short with him starting where he is and then not being sure about the car. And Byron as well. Like going back to what I was saying, Byron started on the pole the last 2 years, and the race winner from COTA has come from inside. I believe it's like the top 7 or top 8 all 4 years that we've had here. So like he's well beyond where he should be starting if he's going to win the race based on historical data and where he's done the last 2 years. So it's going to drive completely different for him. He's not going to be able to stay out front and run away like we've seen in the past. So I don't really like a ton of these guys in this range. I think Chastain's a little bit too short because he's 16 elsewhere, a couple books in Vegas. And, those numbers I could possibly get behind.
Would you bet him at 14?
No.
So you just don't like Ross that much this week then?
No, I look, I think Ross is going to be incredible, but as much as I just crapped on him earlier, why would you bet Ross at 14 when you could play Suarez at 22? Like, I don't think their practices were that far off. Look, I don't
either, but I've seen Ross get to victory lane where I haven't.
That
really
is very true. I agree with that. But when's the last time that Ross has actually gotten to victory lane on a road course?
Yeah, but like, I mean, we're talking about Daniel Suarez's seat is basically Connor Zilich's seat. They're already fitting it to him, so I'm not really. I'd bet Ross over Suarez every day of the week. If you want to do a head to head, I'm happy to take that.
Oh no, I better be getting like plus 150. That's
Let's see. I will do the sim over at Win the Race, and we can just take that as our little show bet. All right, Suarez. So
no, I'm not taking the Suarez side. I'm not placing that matchup.
I thought you just said that you would. Oh, you're
Yeah,
just
I would have to get like plus 150 or longer, but that would be like, I don't even know. That would have to be like a nickel. I'd place like $20 on that or $50 max.
What about plus? So the fair market value is plus 135. You taking that?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
I guess.
Too short.
I
I
guess
said
it
plus
doesn't matter.
150 or
All
longer.
right. So are you betting anyone, say 20 to 1 or longer? Are you interested in like Bowman? I've keep going back to, and maybe this will be the week that he wins and makes me feel stupid. But I think I'd much rather bet him to top 5 at plus 325 than to bet him to win the race, given who's gonna probably be in front of him. But
So full disclosure, the only like outright bet I've played since the odds got posted, obviously the number is not here, it's in Vegas, was Bowman 30 to 1.
yeah, I would play
And
that.
I do think that 25 presents some value just because, look, I don't really care where he's starting. And also the historical data of saying that, the winning cars here, they start near the front. But Alex Bowman was really good in practice. He has the best overall finish, I believe, at this track in the 4 years, 4.3, or maybe it's close up there. He's always finding a way towards the front. And so laddering him, I think, something I don't really do. It makes sense if you're able to like split up a unit and play him on the outright top 3, top 5, and then you can get some decent top 10 bets on Bowman as well right now.
Would you rather bet Bowman at 25 or Busher at 40?
Oh yeah, see,
If you want to
Busher
talk
is going to need
ladders, like Chris Busher feels like a fun ladder. Top 10, top 5 outright.
he needs strategy to come into play though.
Mm.
That's the one thing. Like obviously DFS, I like Busher a lot because I think he can strategically earn placements. But in order for him to get to the front, like we saw at Watkins Glen, he needs strategy to come into play here.
Okay, what about who's top 10 would you rather bet? Bowman or Busher?
Well, I played Bowman's at plus 140 at bet 365. That's on the card, obviously. And then Busher's is only 2 to 1 at FanDuel. And although I like that, and he's a top 10 machine, he's got like an 8.8 average finish at road courses. The worry I have with him is that his top 10s at COTA are like 8th. And because of where he's starting, he's probably going to wind up battling it out between that 8th and 12th place position. So I don't know if 2 to 1 is good enough value for me to get there, knowing that it's going to take strategy in addition to him having to pass so many cars to get up there. And it's not, whereas Bowman, his ceiling in doing so is multiple spots higher than Busher's.
Okay, so are you adding any outrights to the card that besides the Tyler Reddick? So I don't know if I am. Like, I think Bowman's in play. I think not Briscoe. Busher's in play.
Well, Bowman's 28 at 365.
Yeah, and I don't think Larson's. He's on my short list too. But
And he's all right. I am going to add Bowman, just for keep it true to my word here. He's 28 at FanDuel. I don't hate that number one bit. So And mind you, also at FanDuel, like Bowman's top 10 price is even money. You see it, like, obviously the markets are they're not necessarily correlated, but he's probably going to find his way to the top 10. And if he can do that and a couple things fall his way, that long number, I think, is definitely warranted.
Yeah. Yeah, that 325 top 5 feels really nice. If his basically even money to the top 10.
BetMGM 30-1, Alex Bowman. There you go. So you can rest assured that tomorrow morning when you watch this, go fade Tyler Reddick, Alex Bowman, and bet Daniel Suarez to win. Because as much shit as I've talked about mi amigo leading up to this race and right now, this is his chance to get his victory. So,
all right. Well, we're running along, but we still have some markets to dive into. So, what do you want to look at, Brian? You want to look at some manufacturers? You want to look at some top 10s? Where do you want to go?
let's look at the manufacturers, and then we'll call it quits, and then keep shopping and for the
Yep,
newsletter.
and we will keep shopping. And if you haven't seen our newsletter for this week, go aoppodcast.substack.com, aoppodcast.substack.com for our full betting card, our favorite bets, our favorite DraftKings plays, all that good stuff. So I don't think getting involved in Top Chevy makes much sense. Bowman at 22. I mean, he's behind Carson Hocevar and Kyle Busch for some reason.
Wait.
So I'm gonna add that. That seems wrong.
His top Chevy is 22-1.
That's what it says. So I'm gonna go ahead and bet that.
Man, you know what? Here, I'm gonna change my mind here. I would much rather play that than play his outright.
Yeah. Even at 30.
Yes, because he can finish third or fourth.
Yeah. Like, it feels pretty odd for that to happen, especially because we talked about SUG and Larson and Elliott, but
yeah, what is going on here?
That's wrong.
That's insane.
Yeah. I wonder if anybody else has that market currently. Does FanDuel have it up yet? I'm guessing they don't. Our favorite offshore has it at 16, which feels more appropriate. I don't see anything. There's 3, 5, and 10. Anyways,
I got to do a little reconnaissance on that.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and hit that for me, that would be phenomenal, and then I'll happily get you. While you do that and do your digging, let's talk other markets. So Ford, Busher 275, Cindric 3, Blaney 6, Logano 650, Gilliland 8. I don't hate that Joey at 650. It might be 6th or 8th or something, but I mean, I think Busher probably gets there. And we talked about our worry about Cindric, so but plus 275 feels short, right?
Honestly, I don't even know what the hell to do with these friggin' Fords. Like, the qualifying order's all jacked up. I trust Chris Buescher over anybody in that camp in terms of keep the wheels on it, but
is there anybody in the top Toyota market, if we want to kind of get off of our outright exposure? Bell, Bubba, Tyrone Gibbs at 10-1.
Briscoe. I told
Briscoe.
you. I have this eerie feeling that
Briscoe at 18. I could do Briscoe.
Yeah, like I can get behind him finding a little bit of speed on Sunday, because like I said, he was sporty during practice.
He was indeed sporty.
And this is a team that is they're in a situation where they have to not only try to accumulate points, but the only realistic way they can make the playoffs now is going to have to be to win a race this year. So I think they can get a little aggressive to gain track position and stuff like that, and hope that cautions fall the right way. And they could maybe find a caution at the right time where they wind up running inside the top 5 while leaders had just pit or something, So
Yeah,
I think that's a long number to consider.
yeah. It seems like Caesars is trying to take our money this week because they're really putting us in interesting spots. Briscoe like minus 150 versus Cindric, I think is indicative of what you're saying. So I think that's a good call. Larson minus 220 versus Connor Zillage. Elliott minus 160 versus Bell. We got some opportunities this week if you want to fade some people. Byron plus 165 versus SVG.
Look, it's going to take SVG crashing out for that to
Yeah,
cash.
probably.
Yeah, although that is a pretty wild line.
Mm-hmm. Just like given what we expected from the beginning. So, well over an hour. Appreciate anybody who made it this far. I will recap our card. And obviously, as I mentioned, we will have the full card up on the Substack. So if you want to take a look at that, let's take a little zoom. I got Reddick 850. I have Ross over Byron. I have Logano over Denny. I have Ross over SVG. I have Bowman to top 5, and that's before. And then post, I have McDowell over Suarez. I have Bowman top Chevy and Briscoe top Toyota for small plays. Brian has Reddick, McDowell over Suarez, Cindric top 4 to plus 350. McDowell over Suarez again because he's a glutton for punishment, which makes me a little terrified to hop on that, but we'll see what happens. Bowman top 10 at plus 140. That feels nice. McDowell top 10 at plus 240. That feels nice. And he jumped on the Bowman to win at 30-1. Anything else you're considering, Brian? Anything else you want to give the fine people that's kicking around in your brain before we close up shop for the week and get ready for a fun race from Austin, Texas?
Yeah, fade SVG at your own peril, and just try to shop for the best line possible. It's something that I can't reiterate enough. There are so many sports books now that are competing for your handle as a bettor, whether you're laying thousands of dollars or tens and 20s of dollars. Like, some of the books are trying to differentiate themselves by laying long lines. And so do your shopping, however many books are available to you, and always try to find the best possible line and also ARB opportunities with these matchups.
I like it where your head's at. As I mentioned, all of our stuff will be up on the Substack. Go check that out. Completely free to subscribe in your email inbox every race day. Go hang out on Grid Rival. 100% deposit match up to $100 with AOP 25. Jump in our free contest, even if you don't deposit over there. Go check out Win the Race. I highly recommend doing it. The Discord is popping as we are chatting. Lots of good conversation, lots of good bets, and it's a fun race day experience. So highly recommend checking that out. With that being said, make sure you subscribed, liked, all that good stuff. Let us know down in the comments where you're at. What's your card looking like? Are you playing Zillage on DraftKings? Any questions? Any other thoughts? Brian and I will try and loop back before the race. Chris Wormy's pre-race poll is going to be up 2 hours before the race. So if you're watching this and you haven't gone over there, go check out his YouTube.
Prediction, he picks Kyle Larson, by the way.
Huh?
Prediction,
Oh, yeah.
he picks Kyle Larson.
Oh, yeah. Kyle Larson's cooked. My two questions. So I think you're right. I think his winner is gonna be Kyle Larson. And I do wonder who his couch bet is. I know he has a couch bet. I'm wondering who that is because it's not Reddick, it's not Zillage, it's not SVG. Maybe it's
Imagine if it's Briscoe.
If it's Briscoe, I will literally fall over on my couch. I will be on the ground, legs in the air, not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
Appreciate everybody who's hopped on watching. You guys have been
thank
amazing. You've been subscribing at a rapid clip. You've been watching all of our videos. Brian and I are extremely, extremely thankful. We will be back on Wednesday in your feed to recap COTA and get ready for
Phoenix, baby.
Phoenix, and then Vegas. Oh, it's the
We
most
got a couple of
wonderful.
special things to announce on our next show as well about Las Vegas weekend.
Yeah, so stay tuned. Follow the show on the socials. And we'll talk to you guys next time.